What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunched Boxing News, and I have some new news concerning Jarrell Big Baby Miller. I want to set the record straight on Big Baby, okay? I've been reading comments about Jarrell Miller and, what's my thoughts about Jarrell Miller? And, what do I feel about everything that's going on in Saudi Arabia, him pulling up on people, him talking selectively about certain people and selectively not about others. And here's my counterpunch on Jarrell Miller. First of all, to keep it 100, to keep it a buck, people, Jarrell Miller had his career on a silver platter 4 years ago. He had a multi-million-dollar deal in place with Anthony Joshua. He was able to use his savvy Brooklynite brash talk to secure him a fight with AJ, and it worked. When AJ was going to fight Povetkin, Jarrell Miller was there. He didn't have to go far because he's from New York, and they were in New York. And, of course, that was the mandatory on the WBA end. Okay, so he had to fight the mandatory Povetkin for the WBA. And since he had all the belts except the WBC, that's what he had to do. That was his obligation as a champion at the time. Well, Jarrell Miller knew he was going to be there, and he rolled up on him. Okay? Start calling him pussy and bitch and whatever, right? All type of derogatory statements. And it got AJ's attention. Since it got AJ's attention, AJ signaled to Eddie Hearn to get him the Miller fight, because Miller was undefeated at the time, and he's still undefeated to this day. Keep that in mind. And the negotiation, the New York press conference, the London press conference, these things were going on at the same time, okay? And, the DAZN deal from Wilder and all that was happening simultaneously, and it was falling through and failing and all that stuff. But, nonetheless, with Jarrell Miller, he failed a drug test, okay? And he didn't fail 3 times. Because I just heard an interview with Eddie. Oh, he failed 3 times. No, he failed once with 3 different drugs. That's totally different. It didn't matter if he had 10 drugs in his system. He didn't fail 10 times. The only reason he took another test, because being Jarrell Miller, he wanted to call people's bluff, but ended up getting found out about. And this is what he said. He said, "I'm absolutely devastated upon hearing the news. My boxing license has been revoked in New York State, and I will vigorously appeal this decision," he said. "I have never knowingly taken any banned substance, and when I found out the news last night, I was totally shocked. This was a voluntary test that I was very happy to do, and these results came just 1 week after another voluntary test that I had taken, which was completely clean. I refuse to just lie down and let my dream be taken away from me when I know in my heart that I've done nothing wrong. I don't have anything to hide, and the truth will make itself known." Well, see, because he said that, they gave him another test. So when people say 3 tests, well, in actuality, yes, but it didn't matter if he failed the first one or the second one or whatever. They found the shit in his system the first time. Okay. And because him trying to clean his shit up, he ended up finding more dirt spilled on the floor. And then they found the HGH, and then they're like, well, what the fuck is this? That's what that was about. But it wouldn't have mattered anyway, because he already failed. He wouldn't have fought AJ anyway, because he failed the first test. See, people, what they do based on the circumstances, he made it worse himself by, hey, I don't know how this got in my system, and I never did this, and I never knowingly did that, and all that knowingly shit. Well, that means I didn't know. I played dumb. But at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, now you take another test, and they find more shit in there. See, if you would have just said, oh, well, I don't know how that happened, and and then you wouldn't have voluntarily took another test, you'd have been fine. They wouldn't have found that other shit in there. But since you wanted to do that, They found it. So there you go. So it looks a lot worse than it really is, but it doesn't matter because when he failed the first time, he wasn't fighting AJ anyway. So his dream of that $7 million was taken away. Okay, so I don't like the double jeopardy bid. I don't care for that. Jarrell Miller had a variety of shit in his system. That's why they call him a pharmacy, big pharmacy Miller. I get that, absolutely. This man was a walking drugstore. Okay, and he was back. And I don't understand how he figured that he could pass. I always wondered that. That's one thing I wonder. Like, dude, did you even think that you were going to slide through with Vada with all that shit in your system? That's what I do wonder. You know what I mean? Or he just done it so long that he thought that he could get away with it based on the amount of times that he got away with it. I don't know. But he had various drugs in his system. So the $1 million deal fell through. He can't blame anybody else but himself. Fuck what he said to Eddie Hearn. Fuck him rolling up on Eddie Hearn or having that little secret conversation in his ear. Okay, he was ear surfing with Eddie Hearn, telling him, well, why didn't you treat me like you did Conor Benn and yada, yada, yada. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, simply because you were the one that had your own career in your hands and you blew it. Okay, now shout out to him for coming back because he's on the card. He's on the undercard, but he's still there. The Day of Reckoning pretty much exposed and promoted everybody that was fighting, and he was able to talk to everybody that was fighting, including Anthony Joshua, a guy that once upon a time, 7 mil. Come on, man, 7 M's? That's career high payday money right there. 7 M's. Somebody gives me 7 M's, I know my life is going to change drastically. Hello. So, that's that. And with Jarrell Big Baby Miller also, is he good for the sport? Certain people think, well, they're disgusted with Jarrell Miller. I don't think so. Why? Because other people have tested positive also. So no, I don't look at that. I mean, if you felt that way, that means you're going to have to dismiss a whole lot of people that are still fighting to this day that test positive for some shit that didn't supposed to be in their system and they're responsible for it. Okay? That's that. But Jarrell Miller's good for the sport, I feel, because he's able to self-promote, and we need somebody like that. In fact, we need an old dirty bastard of boxing right now. Why not? We don't have that. We got Tyson Fury lying every other day. We got AJ trying to be this role model citizen, and that's really not really panning off because they're expecting too much out of him. You have Deontay Wilder. He hasn't fought in 2 years since he's lost to Tyson Fury. You have Andy Ruiz. I don't know what he's doing. You know what I mean? He's on a shelf somewhere. Who else do you have? Other than that, we have a bunch of newcomers that really haven't made a name for himself. You know, maybe Jared Anderson, but he's talking about quitting in 2 or 3 years. So who do we really have? You know, and Wilder's damn near 40 anyway. Just talking about Wilder. So we need somebody like this. It's refreshing to the sport. Okay? And however, refreshing as it may be, as much shit as Jarrell Miller talks, he's going to have to win. Because if he doesn't win, the pressure is going to fall, and he's going to fall with the pressure through the cracks. Why? Because, for one, people are going to say the only reason that you did what you did back then, right? Now you look like a fat Pillsbury Doughboy now with titties and shit, right? 2 big fat hams on each side of your chest, is because you were taking drugs that whole time. And you're going to have to perform. So he's going to have to show people that, for one, he can throw that many punches. For 2, he can perform the same way he did without the drugs. So if he goes and gets starched and stretched by Daniel Dubois, none of this means anything. You're just another, like I told guys on my live stream, you're another Chael Sonnen. You're another guy that never really, when it was time for you to step up, you couldn't do it. Almost, but not quite. But then you had to take drugs to do it. Okay, so, yeah. Jarrell Miller, yeah, as much shit as he talks, he still has to win. Now, do I want him to win? Sure, because I think Daniel Dubois is a quitter. I just do. I just think he's a quitter. You know, I had a little hope for him. But after that Usyk jab to the face and he jumped down like he was doing a fucking birdie, I lost respect for him at that point. So For me, I'm like, okay, what's good for the sport? Well, the duration, the narration of what could happen. It would be best for Jarrell to beat Dubois for me. Why? Because for one, Jarrell, despite his allegations and all the stuff that he did, the bad guy, he's still undefeated. Danny Dubois has already been whooped twice. So if he beats Jarrell Miller and gives him his first loss just for the sake of him staying there after he's fucking quit twice, that's really not, that doesn't really excite me. I think Danny Dubois needs to take do another birdie against Jarrell Miller. That's if he can. Because, see, Danny Dubois, again, I think he's going to show people what he's made out of, and he knows if he wants to stay anywhere near Queensberry, he's going to have to show up and show out. And if he doesn't, he's done. He's through. He's finished. But then Jarrell Miller ain't the hardest person to hit. So, you know what I mean? It just depends on, can Jarrell Miller take the damn punching power? But Jarrell Miller has to perform. Because, again, a lot of people are saying, man, you look like bloody shite. I'll grow fucking has waiting for you to throw a punch now. Because, because he looks fat now. He's orca fat. He's what, 225 now? 228? But, back then he was like 325, 328. He was like 340, 350. That's crazy. Now, that man he needs to leave the cheeseburgers back or whatever, but he needs to win despite what he's trying to resurrect in his career by his mouthpiece. But he also needs to start walking and also besides talking. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think of Jarrell Big Baby Miller and my thoughts on Big Baby. Of course, please subscribe. And you guys been Counterpunch. Peace.